Hello, this is Sean Taylor for Blues in Britain as part of the How Musicians Work series, in which I get to talk with some of the best musicians on the planet and artists on the planet about the music that they create. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button at the bottom. Today, I am joined by an amazing singer, a wonderful songwriter, a fantastic live performer who I've been fortunate enough to open for a couple of times, who is really great and has a new live album out, which is superb, which is coming out, which is really great. So I'm delighted to welcome Joe Harman.
Hello.
How are you?
Hello, I'm very well, thank you. I'm a bit bedraggled.
Yeah, that's a
Uh,
good word.
yeah, thanks. Bedraggled and tired, but I'm all right. I'm
You look,
surviving.
you look really well. So what's been happening? Tell me.
Well, I had twins like 4 months ago, so
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. We are also renovating part of our house, so we are currently living only in the living room, and all of the things that were in the kitchen are now in the living room. And we have three children. We have a toddler, a 3-year-old, and twin babies. So to say, and we're not sleeping. So
Oh.
we're doing all the challenges all at the same time.
Well, congratulations. I think that the last time I saw you, I think you might have been expecting your first child. I think.
Oh, possibly, yeah, yeah, very.
Um, and it was. I remember you were playing. You were on stage and you were expecting, and a child ran on the stage, and you gave her a big hug. I thought you might have set that up, but
No, I
but it
didn't.
was really sweet actually. I thought, oh,
Oh,
that's really nice.
that was in Didcot. Was it in Didcot?
Probably you don't do that every gig.
No, but I remember that one, and I don't remember. I mean, once gigs are kind of gone, they're kind of
Yeah.
out of my brain. I don't really remember them again, um, except for the kind of big ones, I suppose. But the kind of the that yeah, I remember that. I think that was what place, what
Uh,
venue is that called?
Cornerstone Art Centre. I've just remembered it.
Yes,
Cornerstone Art Centre.
yeah, yeah. And I was expecting Astrid, and yeah, that's it. Yeah, that was such a lovely moment. She was so cute. She was so cute.
That was
Oh,
sweet. That was
yeah,
very sweet.
very sweet.
So what's it like being like an artist and being a mom and being a parent? How's it change things?
Well, going to gigs is very different. It's yeah, there are an awful lot of challenges. It's really hard. It's hard because I think your brain gets kind of split in two when you become a mum, and and I think I have the two kind of parallel parts of my brain that work at the same time, and often the mum part of my brain kind of supersedes the other part of my brain, and it's hard to switch that part of your brain off. Um, and it's on high alert kind of all the time, so it kind of infiltrates everything, even when you're not, it's not meant to. So it's hard to switch that off. But so it is a juggle. It's a juggle. And recently I've been doing a few gigs with the Joni Mitchell project. Um, and my partner just has to come with me and bring the babies.
Ooh.
So I've been doing that, bringing the babies to these gigs, which is lovely. But I think before I turn up to the gig, have a bit of a rest, do the sound check, get ready, and all of that, and and just have some kind of chilled time, catching up with people. But it's very different. I don't really kind of feel like I get to catch up with people. It's all just dealing with the babies and feeding them and all of that. But that will change. It will change. It will morph. It's just right now. That's all it is. It's just right now. So it is. Yeah, it is a juggle, and I think brain space wise, it's hard to fully focus onto the things that are important to me. That will come back. Thankfully.
That's all really interesting to hear, and I'm really glad to hear that. Yeah, lots happening with you. I love the live album, really great. When is that coming out soon, or is that come out, or what's the date for that?
I think it's come out, but don't. I'm not. I don't know. I'm sorry. I've been in a bubble.
Well, I really enjoyed listening to it. I listened to it traveling across Europe to gigs, and it was
Oh,
great.
that's
And I
nice.
have to be honest, it was in a train carriage full of really noisy kids. And
That's all.
it was a great, it was a great break from that hearing your songs.
Did you have noise cancelling headphones? I hope you did.
Totally. Oh my God. But it was really great, and I loved it. And I was curious about quite a lot of things in it because the first set you said it's about from Dirt on My Tongue. That's the first
Yeah,
set of the live album. You said you focused on that, and that's your first record. That
yeah. That's right.
great, cool. Sorry,
Yeah, yeah,
first album, and that was produced with working with Mike Davies. Is that correct?
that's
Could you
right.
tell us about that a little bit?
So that first record was had no idea what we were doing really. We just had written some songs. I'd written some songs with Mike. I'd written some songs um, on my own. I'd written some songs with a couple of other people, and I had this bunch of songs, and Mike and I were really good friends, and we worked really well together. And he just I don't know, we just have a musical chemistry, and it just made sense. Seeing as we wrote quite a lot together as well. So it just made sense, and he just kind of really he just gets me. He just there's so much unsaid when it comes to working with Mike. He just really gets me, and it's very natural and it's very fluid and it just works. And so it made sense to ask him to do the record, and luckily he said yes. And we literally like I would go to his house in Lewisham, and he had a studio in his box room in Lewisham,
Mm.
and we would just work in there, making this album. We just like at points we were putting the amp in the bathroom to get the right kind of reverb, and
Mm.
using bits of underwear to like poke in the bass to get the right kind of sound for the bass. And it was just this really organic experience and we didn't really know what we were doing, and there was nothing that went before it, so we didn't have anything to compare it to, so we were just kind of enjoying the process. And then we went to a cottage. I hired a cottage in Essex just to go and finish it, because I thought, well, we had the bones of it, we had most of it there, but it just needed that kind of final push to go and to just get it done. And so I hired a cottage in kind of the countryside in Essex, and we spent the week there just finishing off, and had mates kind of coming in and playing, kind of setting up and playing different parts. I did some vocals there. Um, and then sent it to this guy. No, well, we went to this guy called Andy Strange, who had a studio in North London, and he'd done a lot of the Robbie Williams albums, and was a kind of producer, kind of extraordinaire. And so we took it to him to get it mixed, and we mixed it with him, and spent, I don't know, God, I can't remember how long, like the week or a couple of weeks, and we mixed it with him. And had this kind of really cool time in his amazing studio in North London. And it was just a really nice experience. It was a big learning curve, and I realised kind of how particular I am, and how detailed I like things to be, and how I like things just so, and how strongly I feel about my music. And I think that really kind of came to the fore in that, making that record, and gave me the confidence, actually, because I was not, I can't remember how old I was. I was like my early 20s or something, but it
Yeah.
gave me a lot of confidence. So yeah, it was
And
cool.
then you went from there, the second record in Nashville, which you talked a bit about. It's interesting, the live record, you were talking about the way in which people in Nashville work. And I think you
Mm,
described some of it as kind of waking up, people working 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon. And I think some of it you said you found quite difficult and alienating. Was that was it a good experience going to Nashville, or what would you say?
it was amazing. I mean, it was a life experience that I'm not sure I'll ever have again. And the way that people make records nowadays, it has changed. And that record, I was really lucky to go and make that album, and I'll never take that for granted, because I was working with the best of the best, like seriously the best of the best out there. It was unbelievable. Um, but yeah, it was a very different way of working.
Mm.
Uh, so that was eye opening. It was very, time is money. and it's all heavily unionized. So you have your 3 hours in the morning, you have your 3 hours in the afternoon, and that's that. With the musos, anyway. With Fred, it was different. Fred Mollin, who was my producer, is he was just all in at all times, and but yeah, with the musos, it was very strict. You have it was more like classical music is over here. Classical music's very much like that. You do your 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon, then maybe you do the concert in the evening, or you do 3 hours in the afternoon, you do the concert in the evening. It's like you have two sessions a day, and so that's kind of how it worked. And but it was amazing. Like I think that, but they were kind of freed up by having this very particular, very constrained time constraints.
Mm.
They were freed up from it because you can't overthink things. You can't. Everything happens very quickly. Um, but these musicians are like the best in the world, and they're really experienced at what they do. So you can give them a very small note about something and do it again, and it's done. But mostly we were just using the first takes of stuff because it was so extraordinary being in the room with these people who would listen to the record once, have the chart, with the numbers, the national number system on it, and then just go and play it, listen to the demo, and just go and play it and take it to this extraordinary kind of level. um uh it was a sight to behold. It was such an incredible, magical uh environment to be in, and I think it makes you kind of come up to that level as well. It really inspiring. I had a blind keyboard player who didn't, so he didn't have any of the charts. He'd never heard the music before. He would literally listen. He was a guy called Gordon Moat, extraordinary, exceptional
Yeah.
human being and musician, and he had this amazing feel. And he honestly, he listened to those records once. He would listen to the demo, and then he would go in and he would bring it, and he would play
Wow.
it perfectly, and we mostly just used first takes. It was unbelievable. It was an extraordinary experience. So yeah, I learned a lot. But then there were also things like, well, they have their thing and I have my thing. So a lot I had to fight a lot to have my kind of Joe Harman sound.
Mm.
So there was a lot of um, Nashville sound, but
Mm.
I wanted the Nashville sound, the Joe Harman Nashville sound. So I had to be very careful about um, what I kind of accepted and yeah, there were just things that I wanted very certain ways, and I had to step up and say, actually, no, this is how I feel about that. This is what I want. And yeah, and that was that really. And it was amazing. It was great for
Yeah.
me. It was great for them. We just made a great record. And I know that I'd love to work with them all again. And I think they did. Fred's emailed me a few times and gone. The guys are just love to work with you again. And so it's you never know.
That must
Maybe.
be a nice feeling when you go somewhere like that and get appreciated. You must get a nice buzz out of that.
Yeah, massively. I think I was different. I think for them, they make maybe a lot of country records, or they just make a lot of records that sound a certain way. And I think I was different
Mm.
for them. I think it was a different experience for those guys, and I think they appreciated that as well. So that's nice. It was really nice, really nice.
That leads nicely onto the live album, which I really loved, and I love listening to it. I've said that a few times, but I'll say it again because it was great, and it is great.
Thank you.
But there's these really interesting bits in the live album. I think they're called Joe Raps. Is that right? You just start riffing, and it's like, oh man, it's cool. I like it. I remember when I saw you live, it was the same thing. You just kind of go on these little stream of consciousness things when you just sort of wander off, and it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, stop talking. Don't get technical with me. It's not just it's Joe Harman talk. It's kind of you wander off in these nice tangents. I don't know if you plan them or do you have them worked out before each gig, or you just riffing.
No, absolutely not. I've never been one for, oh, after that song, I'll say this and I'll say that. No, absolutely not. It just, whatever, just happens.
Because there's a bit where you talk about creative. There's a number of bits when you talk about creativity, and you talk about you said I'm an artist, I'm not a content creator. And you talk about you'd not put out a record, a studio record for a while, and you said it's because you're an artist, not a content creator. I said, or because you're just lazy. You must have said, which I thought was funny. But I wanted to ask about that because this series of interviews, I do it because I like chatting to musicians about music. I just want to find out how people write and create, and every artist has a different method for creating. And I just wanted to ask you about your method because you said that you have to feel. I guess things have to be set a certain place for you to create. It's not just constant. How does that work? Where do you have to be to create? Where?
Yeah, it's not constant at all. It's quite hard work for me, you know. I think people think that it comes really easy to me, but it doesn't. You know, and I think my music I think is really important to me, and I like writing about things that are really important to me and that mean something, and so it takes quite a lot out of me. So I don't necessarily. It's not something I kind of roll out all the time. It's not. I'm not prolific. It's very. I have to work really hard at it, and I have to be in the right headspace for it. So yeah, it's not it doesn't come easy to me. And yeah, I suppose my method is, you know, maybe I'll write with, you know, Mike or, you know, Andy Platts or, um, you know, whoever. But I'll also sit at home and noodle about myself and come up with stuff by myself and write the top lines, or you know, work on the music first and then write the top line after that, or just see kind of what comes out with the existing track that I have. And um, I, you know, I use quite a lot of like, well, what vowel sounds sound good with that, and just see if that, you know, see where the vowel sounds take me. And um, you know, just yeah. And often I think, you know, especially with melodies and stuff, they just kind of happen really. Um, and and then it kind of becomes like, well, that's always that always existed. And I do kind of refine them and craft them over time. But generally, the thing that kind of comes to me very initially is the thing that is the thing that kind of really stays.
That's
Um,
because
yeah.
those in within those raps, or you just say chatting. I was kind of seeing and hearing songs all the time. You were talking about being creative. You were talking about you were about to become a mother of twins, and you were talking about that what you were expecting and what you were seeing. I was just hearing and seeing almost new songs in those because there's such a you have such a kind of understanding of shared experiences of what people see and what people feel at gigs. And I remember again when I saw you at the gig, you were talking about becoming a mum for the first time, and you were talking about what you were expecting, and it felt in the room there was almost a load of people, well, obviously women generally went, oh, okay, and it was like there was a shared experience, and I kind of that's why I was curious about the you just called it talking, but the Joe raps. I was curious about that because I thought there was a lot of songs in there. I heard them anyway.
What content, like lyrically?
Absolutely, yeah. I heard song. I was seeing songs like.
That's very interesting. I would never have thought about it like that at all. I'll have to listen to it again and see what kind of gem pull out.
Not all of it. Some of it you were talking about eating pizza before you went on stage. I thought you can't use
Yeah,
that.
quite a lot of it's just me talking absolute shite. Just yeah, just a stream of consciousness that these poor people that have paid money to come and see me kind of whine on about whatever.
No, they loved it. They loved it. They really loved it. I got to ask you about your voice because it is gorgeous. Your voice. It's really really beautiful.
Thank you.
And there's a word I'm going to try and say that I always struggle with, so I'm going to please bear with me. And I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Is it timbre? You know that word,
Timbre, timbre,
tom? That's it. You can say it. I can't say that.
yeah,
Timbre,
timbre, yeah,
timbre. Yeah, your voice has that, and it's like a texture, different real
yeah.
textures that
Okay,
you can
yeah.
use on different tracks. In the first part of the live album, the first thing I hear is this riff you just go into, which is like a saxophone. I love saxophone. It coming in is just with the music, and I was just curious about your voice. What you started young, right?
The first time I remember singing was, you know, like when I was in school assemblies and all of that. And I used to do the woodcraft folk. I don't know if you've ever heard of the woodcraft
Yeah.
folk. Just the hippie organ, the hippie alternative to the scouts and the brownies.
I was in neither, but yeah, I heard of them.
Yeah, so it was all like woodcraft. It was all like, let's have some trees and let's, recycle and save the world and all that stuff. And it's, mixed genders. We don't have, girls and boys here. It's all everyone together. Um, and yeah, so and we used to sing a lot in that. And then I think I went to secondary school and I did a lot of the shows and I just kind of was really into music. I was a bassoon player, played the violin. I was like really interested in music and had done it for, a good few years by that point. And yeah, and then when I was in school, I was just doing all sorts of like really wide range of music. And I remember my mum saying to me when I was about 11, "Oh, Joe, I think you've got a really lovely voice." And I'd never thought about it before, and that was the first time that I'd ever thought, "Oh, all right, maybe I'm quite good at, maybe I'm quite good at that." But I hadn't. It never occurred to me, and I think that kind of gave me a little bit of confidence to go, "Oh, right, cool. Well, I'll just do that a bit more then." And I just loved it, and I really enjoyed it. And then yeah, so I just sang loads at school, in school kind of bands, and just the school shows, and just all of that stuff. Meanwhile, and I was doing all the classical music as well, and yeah, so that's kind of where it all started, really. But and then I would like write songs on the guitar, and me and a friend of mine, would write together. Um, and that was a lot of my kind of early musical education. Really, was just spending an awful lot of time around the piano at her house, and we would just. She would do a lot of writing actually, and I didn't quite have the confidence that she had at that point, and she did a lot of writing songs, and so I used to sing them and like pipe in with my ideas. And so no, it was just yeah, it was. Oh, sorry, my camera's being a bit weird. Um, so that was kind of my musical education. So that was that, yeah. And I went to music school when I was about 23 or something. After my dad died, because my dad died, and that really like threw me, and I had to really kind of consider that how I wanted to live my life, and how I wanted to make myself happy, because I wasn't happy. And so that kind of propelled me, um, and pushed me to doing that. Sorry,
That's great. That's great. There, right there. You can't control the sun. No, that's great.
we've got here, because this is because we're renovating our house. Sorry, it's
Should I
really,
ask what that is, or am I being nosy?
these are all baby clothes, I think.
Okay.
But they should be somewhere else, or they should be away. But basically, I've got Tupperware behind me. Like our entire kitchen is like scattered around the house. Anyway,
Yeah,
um,
but we lost light again. That's they're kind of a bit more. That's it. There. Perfect.
yeah, and then so I went to go and study. I did this course after my degree. I did a drama degree, and loved that, and had a wonderful experience at uni, and just had a great time basically. Did a lot of going to pubs, just did a lot of getting pissed and having a brilliant fun, um, uni experience, and meeting the girlfriends that the friends that I have, that we've been friends for a long, 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 long time. And yeah, and then so I went to music school and just loved it, and that's I think where I really started to focus on the technicality of my voice, and then started writing songs, and it all just kind of went from there, really. And
Do you have a series of exercises you do, the vocal exercises that you do before gigs, or is it sort of or?
yeah, I do. I try and do a bit of warm. I mean, often I don't even warm up. It's terrible. I'm terrible. I really am. Like,
You eat pizza, you said at the gig, which I was a. You did this really flash vocal thing. I thought you said she's going to say she actually drinks sort of fruit juice and all these
yeah,
things.
yeah, only pineapple juice.
Yeah, and it's bloody pizza.
Yeah, pizza, curry. It's whatever you can get your hands
Curry,
on
oh
for a
man.
gig, isn't it? Really. And all these singers that are like, oh no, I can't possibly do that. I'm like, fucking shut up. Shut up. Don't be such a wanker. Just eat some food. Oh, no,
Wow.
I can't eat cheese. I can't eat, no, I don't. I don't like to eat before a gig. Well, I can kind of understand that a bit, but, just sod off. Quite frankly.
Well, I'm not going to tell you what I ate before gigs because you'll score me for it. But anyway, never
Are you,
mind.
are you there? I only eat like flaxseed and
No, I don't even know what that is. I do know what that is, but anyway, but no, I struggle. I struggle having hot food. I'm just a baby anyway. It's not just to do with gigs. But yeah, peanut butter sandwiches. I'm obsessed with them.
oh well, that sounds great. It's a great pre-gig.
Peanut butter sandwich tour I'm on.
That's lovely. Yeah, I love a peanut butter sandwich. That sounds excellent.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think you just kind of I love to have a healthy meal, and but apart from that, I don't like going on stage with an empty stomach.
absolutely. Yeah.
I definitely prefer to have the energy and eat. So yeah, that's that really.
No, that was funny because it was a really amazing vocal that you did before that. You were doing these
Oh,
falsetto things that were really cool.
I mean, I do all the sirens. I do lots of sirens and do all of that, and do as much of that as I can, and just try and get it all out. And might do a few scales and a few things, for sure. But often as well, it's like by the time you've sound checked, you've got changed, you've got makeup on, you've got then like, oh crap, I haven't actually got an awful lot of time to do
And
that.
the gig, the live gig itself. I mean, how did it come to be? Because it was you didn't. Did you know they were recording that gig, the live?
Yeah, I think so, but it wasn't really. It wasn't. We definitely didn't think, oh, well, we'll put this out at some point. It was just purely, oh, well, it's a studio. They have recording facilities, for no, for posterity. Maybe it'll just, we'll just record it. Nice that also I was pregnant with the boys, so it's a nice little thing that one day they can listen to and think about that. But no, there was no plan. It just happened really, and I think, I don't know, it just felt good. And I think often if things get recorded, Mark's always, if things get recorded and the magic kind of happens, and it all depends on the venue and how we're feeling, how the band are, how I'm feeling. Some gigs just are much more magical than others, and
Mm.
and if it's particularly magical, one then we'll then Mark will probably try and convince me to put it out, which is probably what happened here.
That's Mark, your manager. We're talking about now, yeah.
It's Lockheed. It's famous Lockheed.
Yes, I've met him. Good man. um, so yeah, okay, cool. But you said I was just jumping around. So my notes are in about 100 different places, and I've got a review. I was trying to elegantly kind of. I've got a review of your
Oh
live
yeah,
album. I was trying to just sort of lean down there and see if would you not notice, but you obviously would. Um,
I'm
but
looking
it's
right at you, Sean. I'm
yeah, I
taking.
know it's a bit obvious, isn't it? I've got a live review that I put in somewhere that I'm gonna see if I can find it. I'm trying to get technical. It's not gonna work. But anyway, I did review the album, and I'm just trying to see what I wrote. Oh, here we go. This see if I can be clever. New phone I can't really use. Um, okay, All features. Some of the songs actually I'd love to ask you about. Actually, in the first set, Underneath the River's great.
Yeah.
That's really funky. I said Albert King meets. I'm giving you the review here before you. Anyway, Al Green meets Albert King, which really funky. It was as hot as the fire that burns inside of me. That's cool.
Oh, okay. Oh, nice, nice. Yeah.
Could you talk about that song?
I think so. I don't know. It's a really old one of the first songs that I wrote with Mike, and it was just an expression of like, cool, let's like write a bluesy rocky kind of number and really rock out and enjoy it and have fun with it. So it's more of a fun one as opposed to like a deep Joe Harman, like, ooh, wrist slasher. um and yeah, and yeah, it was just to write a really fun rocky great number, bluesy number, and that's what we did really.
It's
Yeah.
a great track. Really funky.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, Mike has done a great job on that track, and yeah, it's always been a bit of a constant, really, that one, because it just adds that it adds that the and the sorry, my baby brain is struggling to work.
You're doing great. It's all good.
It adds the kind of light and shade in the set. So there are a lot of ballads. I love the whole kind of Joe Harman ballad thing. That's what I love to do, because that's how I create the music that is important to me. But also, there is this other side of me, um, and that that creates the light and shade sometimes that we need for the sets and the shows.
That's interesting. You talk about the ballads because I was curious about how you begin. Obviously, with the "I Shall Not Be Moved," the really it's very it builds and builds and builds and kind of gets funkier and funkier, and the second set comes in and gets really funky. If you don't mind me asking about a couple more songs, "Sweet Man Moses" is a very such a gorgeous song. It's very moving the way you talk about your father passing away, and then your brother. It's dedicated to your brother. It's just a gorgeous. There's a great line in it that I've written down that I absolutely love. He was a sweet man Moses, warm as the daylight in the roses. I love that's gorgeous.
Yeah. Thank you. It's always really nice to hear, and yeah, it's a really important song to me. That one really important because I wrote that quite early on as well, and it's a very poignant. And I think to that time, Dad had died a couple of years ago, and before that, but it was just the grieving was still happening, and it was still very kind of visceral, and for all of us, and we were all going through our own experience of it, and kind of different things were coming out at different times, and it just so happened that Phil was having a rough time at that point, and so it made sense to kind of make some sense of it, and so it's a really important song to me, and it's been a really big song for me, and it was the song that helped in the Netherlands. Really, had a lot of attention in the Netherlands. We did it on some TV stuff, and um, it's a really big song over there. So that was amazing. And yeah, the late great Dave Raven
Yeah.
played on his radio show, and he had a lot of influence in where it kind of went. He was the first guy really to play it and talk to me about it, and it was cool. Yeah,
Dave was great. Did you ever go on his boat in the middle of on the
yeah.
Thames with doing the recording session with all the birds jumping on it? It was like, what
The
the?
ducks. There's this amazing
Yeah,
outtake that we've got of me just absolutely corpsing
yeah.
because I can't even remember really what happened, but I think I just had this moment of corpsing, and the whole band were like, "What are you doing, Joe?" And I couldn't talk I was laughing so much because a duck kind of glided past, and it was just this really kind of obscure, kind of like just a strange thing, and it was very funny to me at the time, even though
It was a bizarre place to record. I loved it. It was really unusual. And when it rained, you thought you were getting actually in the middle of the river because you actually were in the middle of the river.
yeah, and he took us out on his boat as well, like his little kind of speedboat that he had. He took us out on that, uh, and yeah, it was lovely. It was really nice. Yeah, he was a lovely man, Dave.
Absolutely, very nice person. Loved his music. Very
Yeah,
encyclopedia on music.
yeah, he just knew so much. He was just a real very knowledgeable guy, and I've always found his interviews really interesting because he never asked all the obvious questions. He had really interesting questions. You know what it's like when you talk to somebody who has kind of, I don't know, just interesting questions that makes you think about things in a certain way, or just ask you things that you haven't really talked about before. I don't know. It's just he just had a nice way about him, and he was very knowledgeable.
Mm.
He cared.
So just like me,
Exactly like you, which is exactly what I was going to finish that sentence with.
just fishing for
Yeah,
compliments.
exactly like talking to you, John.
Thank you. We've got a light fix going on. Thank you, Joe. There was no pressure at all with me making me say that.
Oh my god, there's lights doing my.
There we go. That's great. You got it out. It's okay.
Oh, but it keeps changing, doesn't it? Maybe if
Science. I don't know.
you like the dead plant in the background.
I like that. Is it dead?
Actually, no, it's not dead. I think it's just dead flower.
Okay. It is your house. You haven't broken in somewhere, and it's okay. I don't mind if you have.
What is that? I've got to go.
So I've got to ask about the Joni Mitchell, because talk about taking on a difficult project. Got Joni Mitchell songs with about a million different tunings and phrasings that are unreal, and
Yeah, massively. Yeah, I mean, I've only got a few kind of handful of songs that I have to do, and a lot of the musos they have to play all of it. Poor Nat Martin, who plays guitar for me quite often, and is a very good friend of mine. He got kind of thrown into the deep end and did the gig for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I mean, I think I barely spoke to him, and he sent me a message afterwards saying, "I'm so sorry, I barely spoke to you on that gig because my head was just down the whole time because it was such a roast, and
yeah.
I just couldn't concentrate on anything else." So the poor guy had to kind of learn the whole set, and it's really, yeah, I think harmonically and all sorts, it's a real beast of a gig. So yeah, it was quite a lot. Yeah, I mean Joni's songs for me, I've always found her really inspiring, but I think this doing this project has definitely inspired me to a new level with her music, and I found new things in her music that I love. Like I was never really into her voice before. I thought her songs were incredible. She's an amazing storyteller, um, and she just had this way with words that just created, just this beautiful picture. Um, and and but I was never a fan of her voice. She was a bit too white for me. I was more into Aretha and the black singers, the R&B singers that I around that time. That was what I liked and what inspired me. And so for me, yeah, she was a bit too, all of that. But doing this project, I think, has um, taken my appreciation of Joni to new levels for sure, and her vocal, because I think learning those songs, having to learn those songs, has been a huge challenge, not just lyrically, but melodically, the way that she uses melody, um, the way that her voice, uh, the way that she kind of, um, yeah, just the way that her melodies are constructed, and how she jumps around to all sorts of different places and with really obscure timing, and a very unique delivery. It's a very hard thing to learn. I think when you listen to the songs first, you're like, cool, yeah, I'll learn that. Great, yeah, fine. And then you get into the bones of it, you're like, holy moly, like
Yeah.
this is fucking really fucking hard. To get my chops around this, and to for it to settle. It takes a long time, I think, to learn those songs and for them to feel settled, like you can. They're bedded in, they're bedded down. It takes a long time to feel comfortable with them because they're so unique to her. So yeah,
Because the case of you did on the, I mean, that is such a difficult song to do. I mean, like
found that really hard.
the
Yeah,
lyrics, there's so many lyrics in there. I could, just drew a map of Canada and the way she does the riffs on that word Canada in the original, in the version on Blue. But there's a later, I was going to ask you because obviously she did another version of that with the orchestra. I don't know if you ever heard that, which is an
yeah,
orchestra of
God,
Herbie Hancock, I think, is in it as well.
yeah, it's
Did
unbelievable.
you for your vocals, were you kind of listening to both of those or just trying to do your own thing? What?
I think I was trying to do my own thing, really, but I was probably listening to the original more
Yeah.
than I did. I had I had listened to the later one with the orchestra, yeah, but no, it was probably more the earlier version that I kind of based it on. Um, yeah, and I think, I mean, I recorded that with Astrid on my hip, and she was one, I think she was
Oh,
one, and I went to the studio in Hastings with my good friend James McMillan, and I recorded that song with a kind of sleeping Astrid here,
oh.
um, and I'd barely sung it before, so it was really new for me. So I was, yeah, it was a roast actually, but I think I think there was definitely, I don't know, it was hard, but I kind of managed to get something out of it, and that vocal came out of it. I think also because I didn't know it so well, I think that I brought new things to it.
Absolutely, and like I said, I mean, of all the people you could pick to do covers, sorry, not covers, so that's the wrong word, interpretations of, it's not an easy. I mean, she's just a nightmare. It's like guitar, her tunings are just I mean, they're just
Right,
impossible, and to,
right.
and all of the vocals and the fret together, it's not an easy.
Yeah.
You could
It's,
have gone with something a lot easier.
I know. Well, it's only because Mark sent me this thing like, oh, you got to put vocal on top of this because it was
Yeah,
Stefan Rettenbacker's, the mastering sessions that he does, and it was his guys and him. They'd done an instrumental version of this song, and there was a kind of this amazing organ solo in the middle, which a guy called Ross, and yeah, and so yeah, he just wanted me to put a vocal on it, so I did, and that's what kind of came out of it, really.
it's really great. I mean, you talked a little bit then about going being your initial interest in kind of, I guess, the old expression would be R&B, which is kind of late 60s, early 70s R&B soul singers. Aretha, you picked out Aretha, but was she a big influence, or what other? There's Donny Hathaway, people like that, and Marvin Gaye. Obviously, Marvin Gaye. And what Mavis Staples, people like that. Are they?
All of those, yeah. Gladys Knight, Solomon Burke,
Yeah,
all of those cats. Yeah, Donny Hathaway, but Aretha was the top. Aretha was
really, right.
Aretha was the person that I would put on my CDs, when I was 14, 15, 16, and just belt it out. And I could never sing it the same way that she did. I could never quite get. I just couldn't do what she could do, and especially at that time when my voice was so young and so naive, but I learnt so much from just listening and singing along to those records, just over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I was so obsessed with them, the feel of them, and all that stuff that she did in the Fame Studios, and I just loved it. I absolutely loved it. And so that was definitely gave me that early education. Um, and I've always it's been Aretha for me, just hands down, just
Yeah.
hands down. It's
Do
just
you
been.
like the Amazing Grace album? I think that's
Oh,
amazing.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
another level, isn't it? It's just makes me cry. I think about it and it makes me want to cry. It's just amazing. Honestly, I cannot tell you how deep it goes and how deep it affects me, and this just the way that she delivers those songs, and her spirituality. And I think there's something in her. I'm quite a spiritual person, but I'm not a person of faith. I don't have a faith. I don't believe in God. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I'm not religious at all, but I have a spirituality about me, and I think I connect with that. And I think that's why I connect with gospel music in a way, even though I don't have the same uh, religious leanings. I feel a certain spirituality, which helps me to connect with that music. Yeah.
Do you think, like, you're going to tell me off for this, but I'm behind the safety of a computer screen, so I'll be all right.
Yeah.
Hopefully. But
Yeah.
in terms of, you talked about writing and like what it takes a lot out of you to write. But like before you kind of wrote those songs, did you kind of feel like they were coming? You could feel the songs coming, or did they just hit you and you were just writing without being able to stop? What I'm trying to say is, now that there's new things happened in your life, and there's, she's becoming a mum and touring, and again, obviously you toured forever, but touring as a mum, your
Yeah.
life is changing. Do you feel like you want to write again, or do you feel like it will happen when it happens? And how does it happen? How does that work?
Happen when it happens. But yeah, I've got things on the boil, and I've got stuff. But that's always the case with me. I've always got something on the boil that I need to kind of go back to, and there's always stuff that I'm working on that I don't come to for like months and months, even
Mm.
years. So in fact, I opened my computer and I had Logic. Logic
Yeah,
was
yeah,
on my computer because for whatever the last time I looked at my computer, whenever that was, I was working on something or other, or was listening to it anyway, because I was just kind of like to go back and reacquaint myself with stuff that I'm working on, not necessarily kind of to work on it as such, but just to reacquaint myself with
yeah.
and where I'd got it to, and then kind of put it away again and not look at it again for another few months. And so yeah, I had a few things up that I've been kind of working on, some stuff that I've been writing with Mike actually. Um, and I'm desperate to kind of try and to just get those on a little bit and do some record some vocals just here
Yeah.
in my little studio. Um, but yeah, it's not a linear process for me.
Mm.
It's lots of back and forth, and it'll just happen when it happens. And I don't paint by numbers at all,
Yeah.
and I don't create content. I'm just like, if it comes, and that's it really. Yeah. So yeah, and I get a bit fed up with social media, and I'm not very good at all of that. I get a bit, just shut up, everyone.
It's
You know,
rubbish.
I need to know when we have breakfast, or I just don't.
Yeah.
And you don't need to know about my day to day life, and like, I'm probably. I think I'm probably a bit more mysterious. I think
Mm.
maybe people think I'm a bit of an enigma because I don't put it all out there, and because I'm not particularly interested in laying all of my stuff out on social media. Really, a bit more private. I like being private. I think I get that from my dad.
Were your family musical?
My dad was. Yeah, my dad was. My dad was. I've got a lot of his records here. Actually, I'm just looking at Roxy Music and Beatles
Yeah.
records and all of that. He was. Yeah, he played guitar, but he was never. My mum's got these old tapes of his that I'd never seen before, but she gave them to me. I can't remember what tape it was. It was like a really old style tape. Um, anyway, of just him like recording stuff and recording some things, and I don't know, yeah, just like
Yeah.
he was never like a recording artist or a musician as such. He just loved music, absolutely loved music. And, he loved the Average White Band, he loved the Beatles, and it's amazing for me that I ended up kind of working with some of the members of the Average White Band and doing a bit of touring with them and stuff.
Wow.
He would have loved that because they were one of his favourite bands. So yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. Um, yeah, so I think maybe I get that a bit from him. My mum, not musical. My brothers, not really. I'm kind of a bit of an anomaly. But yeah, I think I probably get it from my dad.
That's nice. I was in Berlin recently, and I was walking under this bridge, and there was a funk band playing "Pick Up the Pieces." It was like some Tom
Oh,
Waits song I walked into. I was like, "What?" I was like, "I know." They were just singing "Pick Up the Pieces" as I was going under the bridge. I was like, "This is mad," but it was really cool.
great records, great records. Those they just exist, don't they? Like that record, is one of the ones that just exists in the world that
Yeah,
no one. You don't think about anyone writing it or the process of it. It just is there and will be there forever and is part of the fabric of our culture and our lives. And that's an amazing thing.
cool. Joe Harman, thank you so much for. I know you've got so many things on at the moment, and I really appreciate you taking the time. It's been so lovely to talk to you.
Great to talk to you. Really great to talk to you, Sean. Thanks so much.
You sing.